Right, it's Tuesday morning, it's 10 a.m. I'm here with Dorking Wanderers manager and owner Marc White. We've got together at relatively short notice following the distribution last night of the resolutions from the National League to give our supporters and people viewing an overview from the club in terms of where we stand on it. Now, before we move on to the actual resolutions themselves, Mark, and give everybody at home an overview of the four options there, I just wanted to get your feedback on the club's stance on the whole grants versus loan situation and where you sit on that one, please.
Well, from our point of view, commercially it would cost us more to finish than it would to continue. In particular, our main sponsor wouldn't be in a position to continue to back a league which finishes, and we've got payments due. So, but also, again, we're not going to hide behind anything at all. From our sort of sporting perspective as a club, our ambitions from our community kind of role as well perspective, kind of just about everything from our point of view points towards making sure that we carry on, and. We'll look to cut our own costs first and foremost, like any business should and would, and then we'll see the terms, etc., of grants and loans, and see how that plays out. The loans are going to have caveats. I completely understand why many clubs that are really cautious about looking at making sure they get all the loan terms or grant terms. So I respect that fully and understand where they're at. But yeah, from our point of view, I think it's gonna play itself out really in terms of the grant and loan situation. There's also now, let's not forget, a major campaign that's building a lot of speed, that's trying to get everything converted to grants, and so the National League are fully behind that campaign, and all of the 66 clubs. So I think which way we cut our cloth, whether it's a little bit of refinancing through loans or whether it's cutting our own costs, which we have been doing, and as you guys know, and we will continue to do. We are a football club, and our aim is to play football. First of all, we all love it, right? Secondly, our supporters love it, our sponsors love it. It's a huge engagement for everybody involved. So, we're going to do everything we can as a business to operate efficiently, safeguard ourselves, and hope the competition continues.
Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, only last night there was 4 resolutions shared by the National League for clubs to consider. One special resolution, and then resolutions 2, 3, and 4. Can you give the people watching online, a top line overview of how that works, if you can? Appreciate it's a bit of a minefield, and people can be, forgiven for getting a little bit confused. By what's been sent out.
So the foremost. What's being asked of clubs is to agree or not agree to change the constitutional way of voting. So at the moment you get 1 vote per team in the National League, and you get 4 votes for the North and 4 for the South. So each club would indicate in the South, as an example, what they want to do, and that would be condensed, percentaged into 4 votes. So if half the South want to carry on, you'd have 2 votes put towards the bigger vote. So at the moment, constitutionally, that is how the voting has to be. Now, what they are saying is, are you basically for that continuing or against that, and would you rather have 1 vote per club in order to make a decision per step? So therefore, National League clubs all vote for their division, and North and South collectively vote for their step, but on a majority basis. Okay, so if it goes to that aspect, you know, it's a 50% majority obviously wins the day. In order to change, by the way, I should have said earlier, in order to change the constitutional way of voting, it has to receive 75%, okay, of the vote, right? However, what should be noted is that the vote, to change the vote, is based on the constitutional way, which is 31 votes in total. So in order to change the vote, you need 75% of 31, which is 23, and then 2 sets of 4. Okay, so 75%, I make it roughly 24 from 31. So given that National League clubs may consider there's an outside chance that if they keep the vote in the way it is, the 8 votes going to be received from the North and South might be derogatory to them carrying on. We'll probably find the National League clubs are minded to take control of their own destiny and want to change the vote. That's the bottom line. What would we prefer? I mean, listen, you won't ever see us pretending. Tactically, we would prefer it to stay where it is. Bottom line is there'll be tactical voting galore. Anyone who said differently is lying. If the Constitution voting was to stay where it is, then you'd just need 50% of votes to want to continue from 31. So 16. So at this stage, there are definitely a minimum of half the South clubs. I think probably there's around about 14 that definitely want to continue. So that would be 2 of the 4. The North probably would get a minimum of 1 vote, 25%, let's say. So you'd have 3 there, and then you'd only be relying upon 13 of the National League to want to continue, which would mean as many as 10 don't want to. So I think that would be a relatively safe bet that everybody, that all divisions would continue. But so I hope that explains what's what. So in summary, clubs are being asked, do you want to change the mechanism on which we're voting? In order to change it, you need a 75% of the vote to change it, but that 75% is only a 31 votes, which is the constitutional way of voting. Okay, so highly likely it will end up being changed, and then it'll be 1 vote per club and different steps of voting on a majority basis. So 50% then would be the winning outcome, if you like. So 50% of people want to play on in North and South combined. They do. 50% in the National League, then it continues. But what we've got to get right here is that all this is a paper exercise, isn't it? Because whether, I wouldn't blame, Club X for saying, well, you might well have got a majority, but we can't afford it, and our club's not going to go out of business. So I'm not really comfortable sitting here going, oh, let's get this tactically moving, tactical voting. Bottom line is the problem will just be the same problem, just 2 weeks down the road. But what it does give the league to do, because it is really kicking a can down the road, but I can see what the league are doing. They're kind of making sure that they follow due process. I think if the league get a majority to continue, then they then can make a decision to allow clubs, I hope, to step aside in the event that they cannot afford to continue the season and want to safeguard their businesses, etc. And I really hope that's the route they go down, Chris. I really hope that's the route they go down. So these votes are all good and well, but ultimately clubs are still, ultimately going to protect themselves. I know one club that said to me, we couldn't play in any event unless we got a grant. Therefore, we'd have to risk relegation by not fielding a team if need be. And I just think the National League need to be really quick to safeguard and put their arms around clubs that absolutely are in a dire position. And I equally think, and I do think this is the case, that clubs that want to play football, and everybody wants to play football, but there are a lot of clubs that are busting their balls to find a way to continue. And those clubs, many of them are on the docket with 16 teams and 12 from the north and 4 from down here, and all those people they just want more time to understand whether or not they can find a way through cutting their own costs, utilising a grant or a loan, whatever it might be. They just want a bit more time to have comfort, and I completely resonate with that as well. Because I think loads of those clubs want to continue. They want their communities to be able to watch the stream or hopefully come back in April when the supporters do. They want their communities to be engaged with their club. They don't want to hand back their season ticket money. They don't want their sponsors to put their hand out and say, look, I know you're having a tough time, but you didn't deliver a product for us. There is no league. So the league need to be minded that actually these clubs in these brackets that are openly saying, look, we're not comfortable playing now, they do actually want to play. They just need a bit more time. That's the bottom line.
And on the subject of time, when the league was originally suspended for financial reasons on the 22nd of Jan, it was at that point it was made very clear it was a 2-week suspension, and the competitive fixtures would start again from this Saturday, the 6th of Feb. We're scheduled to have a home fixture with Chippenham Town. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, so my thing was, we as a club, initially Sunday I think it was, said, look, there's a lot going on with loans, grants, Sport England meetings, one's going on as we speak. Defer both the voting process and the league commencement by a week. I think that would have been more sensible at the time, but I think now that they've got the resolution out there, now that there is meetings galore on available options for clubs, there is definitely more comfort in the room for some people based on what there was. I think Sport England are going to move quite quickly. I think personally that the National League now need to crack on. I think anybody that doesn't want to play during this 28-day voting process, now that it's actually, they've got 28 days to respond, by the way. That's important to understand. So it's 28 days to respond. And if there's not a majority, by the way, within that 28 days, then it's ditched and we crack on. And what's important to note is that clubs want to take this time, because at the moment there's a National League campaign going on, and there's obviously all of the funding options that are just at the moment quite a fluid situation where we're learning more every day. So clubs are going to be minded to take their time for those reasons at this time. There's no need. We will certainly not be sending back a docket today when there's so much going on, and I'd imagine many clubs will feel the same. So look, we've now started a process that means that if it goes against what we want and against what the National League want and divisions finish, that will be known, that within this 28-day period we'll know what's happening there. So I think now what the National League need to do now is be decisive is the perfect word. The fixtures should continue. If clubs don't want to play because they haven't got guarantees over funding, they haven't got their own comfort of cutting costs, or whatever that looks like, then during this period there should be no fine, no penalty, and the fixtures can be cancelled. A bit like we've seen decimated fixture lists with COVID, so we're used to seeing that. I think clubs can be encouraged to pull in fixtures whereby, if you look at the South, I'm talking about a minimum, I think, maybe 14 that want to play, that you'll see a really robust fixture list. Clubs can play each other that haven't played each other. There's nothing to lose or gain there. There's no crowds, so the losses are not, moved about, so to speak. So I think that's really good for. I think it's good for mental well-being. It's an overused phrase, possibly, but you can never emphasise in the right manner that. I think it's really good for the National League profile. I think it's good for our sponsors, our commercial partners. I think it's good for player safety, player welfare. You don't want players playing 4 games a week if you have too much of a deferment to the season. And yeah, if it goes bandy in 3 to 4 weeks, or by the way, during that process, so just so you understand, whenever you get a majority, that's it, done. They say the result. If it goes bandy, then ultimately we all pack up our suitcases and go, right, see you next season. And that's unfortunate. And we'll all, I'll no doubt have a massive moan, and we'll all, have our tails between our legs, and we'll pick up the pieces and move on. But I just think what I'm saying, it gives surety, decisiveness. It means that, the clubs that don't play have got no concern. No, there's no penalties. There's nothing. So I don't think the National League. I don't now think a further suspension, now they've started this process, will serve any purpose, because if you do suspend again, you really need to suspend and push it right out, and then you've got people not playing football, for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and I just think then you've got to have a recovery period to that to get boys back in the room again. I just think now, during this time, let's get back playing and let's pull fixtures in. That's what I think, and everybody gets essentially what they want without any consequence, which is great.
Absolutely. I was going to actually ask you about the well-being side of things, because just parking grants, loans, etc. for a minute, and resolutions, you can't underestimate the impact, the positive impact that football has on people's lives. You've only got to look at our stream from Saturday. It was a friendly against Bath City, 7-goal friendly, but we've had over 2,300 views of that game, and that's a friendly. And it shows you there was a real appetite for local football, and the positive impact this has on people's lives, especially whilst they're at home and they can't come and attend themselves.
I think what the best way of wording it is that supporters need to be mindful that these are businesses, and I like the way Dulwich worded it, to be fair, that they're businesses that have been around a long, long time, and they need to be around for a long time. So the clubs, the supporters need to be aware that the club's well-being is paramount to the future. But equally, clubs need to be aware that these clubs are extremely important to their supporters and their communities. And I'm sure that clubs do recognise that, but let's be really sure about what we're doing here. If we call it a day, then we're calling it a day until possibly July and August, which is a phenomenal business closure. And sponsors, partners are going to want their money back, or they're going to want to roll their money over. Season ticket holders, our supporters are fantastic, but we have to roll their season ticket over. So somewhere, someone's losing a lot of money in our business. Just to give people an understanding, it costs about the best part of 600 to 700 grand, potentially. Obviously, we'll do our best to safeguard that and whatnot, but there's still going to be a hit somewhere. So if you ask me, will the North and South get a majority? Do you know what I would say? I would say yes. I would say that there are some bloody brilliant football institutions in the North that are on that list of clubs that don't want to play right now, that just want comfort and just want time. I think football will win the day here. I think these clubs will finance. They will do everything they can to keep the competition going. They just need more time. I think if you had a vote today, I think the South will have a clear majority, no question. And then there's other questions being asked in terms of, well, why can't the South continue? I've not heard a good argument yet why one division can't continue. I think that's a question the National League need to answer. I don't think there's any reason why with no relegation from these divisions, why the South couldn't continue if the North didn't want to. I see absolutely no reason whatsoever. But right here today, I think probably it would be 50-50, maybe swaying to one vote either way. But give it a week, I think it'll be a majority and we'll all be happy, all move on. So let's get some fixtures played in the meantime. Let's work with these clubs. Let's not have to start having open letters about we're not going to play, we're not going to do this, and let's not put them clubs in that position. Let's just outline, we're going to continue. I mean, and this is what I would say, and the guys at the National League are working hard, but you've got to be quite proactive. They've put out a note saying fixtures will continue this week. So what's that mean to all the clubs that are sitting there thinking, well, we're not sure how we're going to play? All those clubs just think, right, well, okay, so I'm going to have to, let's get together, let's have a meeting, let's make it bloody clear we're not going to play. It's just very, what I'd call non-collaborative. Why not just front up the obvious situation and say, fixtures are resuming this Saturday, and our view is this. We are going to want to get games going again. If clubs feel strongly they haven't got the comfort yet and there is a process in the background, they cannot fulfil the fixture. Why not just look like you're working with people rather than almost then put them in a position where they need to say, well, we're not going to play? Because them clubs then look like they're being kind of like anti-football, anti-playing on. And they're not anti-playing on. They just need a lot more comfort than maybe the next person might want. So I would really say to the National League, just, look at this like your clubs are your clients. It's not just your commercial partners. Your clubs are your clients. Ring fence them, take them out to a golf day, take them for dinner, look after them, talk to them, help give them comfort as much as you can. So every time you say something, think about what that's going to mean to somebody else, and then how can you possibly offset that at the time and give a bit of comfort to these people. That's what I would say.
Okay. Now, we asked people before the broadcast if for any questions they have, and I've got 3 to share with you. The first one came from Trashwax Records on Twitter. Do you think there are any clubs that have any confidence in the National League Board and the way that they have handled matters?
I think, due to what I just said a minute ago, there is very little confidence. So I have personal confidence in a few individuals within the National League, but not the board. Not most part of the board. But the problem is that they only tell you, it's like almost like a need-to-know basis. It's like very coal-face. And so almost like if you asked any chairman, owner or board, they would say you just don't know what's going to happen next. Like, you literally don't know what's around the corner next. And that's what I mean by just taking a more collaborative partnership approach with the clubs, and I think is what's required. And then also it would stop a lot of these public debacles. Clubs having to do open letters, and stuff like that. This is because, this is the relationship that's being encouraged, if that makes sense, or the behaviours that are being encouraged by the way the clubs are communicated with. And that email going out last night saying, well, the league's going to continue Saturday, was 3 lines. 3 lines. If I'm one of those clubs that, and I'll speak fondly of, let's say Slough. So I'll speak fondly of them. Spoke to Neil recently. 3 to 4 owners, 3 to 4 people that run the club. They have no cash in bank. They recovered a huge debts years ago, got support from the local authority, got a new ground, re-established themselves. They're not in a position to play on. So they got a 3-line email last night going, we're carrying on Saturday. So you've got to put yourself in their shoes, right? So what you want to do is say, hey Slough, just so you know, we know you are one of the bigger problems here. Don't worry, You know, you've got this 28-day resolution going on. You've got grant funding options. You've got your own meetings and whatever. You don't need to fulfil that fixture. You know, the National League need to be more collaborative, put more confidence in the fact that the fixtures this weekend, many clubs will want to play them. And by the way, rather than wait for an open letter to turn up tomorrow or Thursday, let's make sure clubs now know the fixtures are going to take place. You can opt out this weekend with no penalty, no fine, no points lost, no nothing. Rearrange fixtures. Allow clubs then time to rearrange other games to get them on. Let's get trading. To us, that's trading. As a business, that is trading. We want to have a stream. We've got our digital partners, our sponsors that want to see their name on that. We've got our supporters that want to watch it. So I think it's just about, you know, being super collaborative and working with people.
Okay, next question. And you kind of just touched on this a little bit with the Slough example. I mean, Trevor Nell said, what way do you expect the vote to go? And do you believe any of the 66 clubs can continue without funding?
Yeah, loads of clubs can continue without funding. Yeah, of course they can. They'll either take grants or loans, cut their costs accordingly to enable that loan not to fritter away. Or use their bank balance if they're one of the more fortunate clubs, and they'll just consider it worth the investment for their in order to trade. So I mean, you've only got to look at, I mean, we've got a local coffee shop round here, really robust, really busy. They would probably achieve more by not opening than opening, but they still do their coffees take away through the door. You know, and to them that keeps them attached to their community, their trading, and that's what's important to them. So there's loads of people that can afford to do it. I think if you've done a vote today, you know, across the 66 clubs, you'd have a definite majority. By step level, majority step 1, step 2, absolutely 50-50. But just a little bit more time, and I'm pretty confident that'll become a majority.
Okay, and a final question, and again I think you touched on this earlier, but I'll ask it anyway. Ollie Wise said, do you know what happens with promotion / relegation for step 2 if only the National League continues to play on? Well, there won't be any, will there?
There'll be none, no. I just try, it's like a brain teaser. The best one would be if it goes to the vote and National League say they don't want to carry on, and then step 2 votes that they do. Get out of that snooker.
That would be a quandary, wouldn't it?
That'd be a quandary.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to come to that. I just think it needs strong leadership and really good communication. And I've said it all along, you can keep everybody happy. And right now they can. So let's get fixtures moving. No problem if clubs don't want to fulfil them during this process. Let the process carry itself through. If the majority vote is to play on, you've then got the same problem, but just 2 weeks down the line, because there's clubs that may say they can't afford to. Let's look after them clubs as well, make sure they're protected, and let's carry on, and let's take the National League out of the headlines. Doesn't look good. You know, it doesn't look good for anybody really. So let's have a bit of a surety for all the clubs. You know, let's make sure. I'll be very disappointed now if the league do a further suspension, having put this resolution out. It's not necessary now. We can work around that short term. So that's definitely my message, really. I'd love to see other clubs actually say, do you know what, we're on board with that. You know, and I fully support all clubs no matter what position they're in.
Okay, Mark. Well, on that note, we'll wrap things up. But
Cheers,
no
mate.
doubt there's
half an hour waffle.
Well, no, appreciate your time. No doubt there's going to be some more twists and
Criticism.
turns, should we say?
Yeah.
But obviously,
A few people moaning.
well, we will keep everybody posted who's watching online as ever.
Cool.
And thanks for your time. Catch up soon.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.